welcome back to Becky Amio Horse Training, and we are at about 50 degrees today. Big difference than the last time I rode him. We got the flux capacitor fixed in our time machine, and it's been 9 days since the last time I rode him, so this is ride number 10, and it's been 9 days, so he's had a little time off. You know, I got him turned out a couple of times when the weather was really bad, but he really didn't do much because the ground is so crummy right now. They really don't want to play. It ends up hurting when they try to go across hard, rocky, icy, yucky ground. So we're not going to work in the round pen today. We're not going to work in the arena, even though my arena looks like it's worked up and it's beautiful. It's not. It's hard. I have a flat spot right up in front of my house, and I'm going to use that area to work some circles, trot, lope, you know, some stops, maybe some rollbacks. One of the problems we were starting to have in the last ride was he was starting to get behind the bit on me. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it means he was tucking his nose tighter than being on the vertical. He was bringing his nose back into his chest. And at this stage of the game, A, I don't want it there, and B, it's artificial. And the reason it's artificial is because we want that horse to start to learn collection and headset from the hind end. And that's a whole other set of videos that we're not going to cover right now. But if they're already tucking their head like that at this age, at this stage of the riding, it's fake, it's artificial, it's somebody doing this with their hands on the reins. I'm trying really hard not to do that to him. And so he was getting behind the bit, and there's a couple different reasons why they're doing that. Number one, it's too much bit in his mouth, okay? So we're gonna go one more ride, and then we're probably gonna change bits. Number two, this horse needs to ride out. The round pen is too small of an area. This is a horse that was bred and raised to ride a lot of miles outside. He wasn't bred and raised to be an arena horse, and so I'm kind of trying to fit a square peg in a round hole by making him do arena stuff. It doesn't mean he can't do it, but that's what we're trying to do here. And so I'm trying to incorporate both indoor and outdoor riding. And so when you have a horse that wants to get behind the bit like that, usually the easiest fix for that is to get them outside. So we might be able to fix that today just by riding him out without arena rails and round pen rails. And we'll just go from there and see what we get. If we don't get it, we can try changing the bit the next ride around, whenever that next ride may be. We have a few days of stretch of good weather, and we might be able to knock out a few more rides before it gets crummy again. Another thing that I wanted to show you before I got on him is I've been telling you guys this is a 2-year-old stud colt, and I want you to believe me. I mean, as for as quiet as he is and as nice as he is in fact a 2-year-old, and I want you to look. Our cameraman's going to get close up of his teeth. This guy is in fact a 2-year-old. Here's a shot of his teeth. He is in fact a 2-year-old. All right, and with that being said, I'm going to mount up right here. We're going to head up. My cameraman is going to get me riding away, and they're going to get me once I get back up on top, and I'll try to do the least amount of editing as possible like we have been. Shoot, this saddle needs a breast now. Adjust my equipment. Legend has it that the ground that I'm riding on right now is where Lowing Ranch used to calve out about 500 heifers a year. And so you can imagine what the footing is like. And I know in the last few years, I think they hate it a little bit. And since JD and I have moved back to the ranch, we have put our house up here, and hopefully this is eventually where my indoor arena is going to go. But for right now, we are going to ride out in the wide open. There is barbed wire to the south of me and to the north of me, of course separating us from the cattle that's further to the north. So if this colt does decide to drift, I do have to be very careful of that because we could go bouncing off that barbed wire pretty easy. Right now what I'm doing is just showing him kind of this is the pattern that I want him to take around in this area, and setting kind of this is his course, this is the route we're going to take. That's how I tend to warm them up. and it's not too far away from where the corrals are, where the other horses are, where the arena is. And so if he is going to drift at all, I imagine the most drifting is going to be the direction we are going right at this point here, because that's the direction of home. That's where I kind of anticipate it. And so out in this big area, I'm going to work on bigger circles, smaller circles, changing directions, figure eights, getting him to kind of move out and elevate that head a little bit and prevent that nose from tucking deep down into his chest like it has been. And it's already gotten better since we've been out here working. I'm using a tremendous amount of leg on him to support him through the corners and in these circles. I'm posting on the correct diagonal as I go around to help continue to stay in timing with him in the direction that I want to go with him. That's extremely important. I'm also working on keeping that shoulder up as we come around. I don't want to let it drop into the inside and have him make a smaller circle or a smaller perimeter than I want it to be. But I also want him to be respectful of this footing because it is a little bit slick underneath, and we're going to see that once I start loping out here. We did get some moisture, and so even though it may appear to be dry on top, underneath it is a little bit slick, and we'll see some of that. Now, the ground is a little uneven right here as I go over this spot. It's a little raised, and also right here, and he's going to have to adjust a little bit to that. You can't really see it as well in the video, but there are some ridges to it. So after moving him out a little bit, I take the opportunity to practice a stop, and I'm going to start asking him to roll and hold that hind end a little more in place. And he's getting it without the round pen rail, without that crutch of the round pen rail. So that's how we test our training, is by trying it in a wide open space without any rails. And these are rollaways that I'm working on. That first maneuver I did, we were rolling away from the direction we were going. That's why when I go back to one of my initial videos where I talked about the roll away and the roll back, a roll back is a terminology used for arena, but when you call a roll away, that's a term that can be used out in the wide open space. If you are going to the left, you're rolling away, you would roll away and go to the right. Same for the other direction. So I'm starting out with the basic maneuver, the roll away. So right at this moment, I'm getting ready to stop him again, and you can see him slip with the front end when he tries to plant and stop. You can see there, just a little tiny slip with the front right. That's what I mean about the footing slick underneath, although it doesn't look like it. And I'm going to roll him away to the left since we were going to the right. And this maneuver isn't going to be really fast at first because we want it to be correct. Remember, we want to try to get it as correct as we can right now and catch it whenever it is incorrect and fix it before we allow the muscle memory to continue to make the wrong maneuver over and over and over again, because it's a lot easier to catch it and correct the problem than it is to try to fix it after they've been doing it the wrong way for so long. Now this is going to be an inside roll, and it's going to be out the opposite lead. So if we were in a lope, we would have been loping to the left, stop, inside roll to the left, and then lope off to the right again. And I'm pretty sure that I took him that direction that time because that's the way he was set up, so I was just trying to make it easy for him. I'm trying to keep it really fresh for him here. Lots of circle work out in the wide open. It's just going to make him a lot more balanced long term, and take opportunities to stop, We're going to do an inside roll out the opposite lead. Again, if we were loping, we would be loping on right lead, stop, inside roll, and jump out left lead. Now by about, let's say approximately ride 60, he ought to have that maneuver down. But this is where the foundation of that maneuver begins. I think he has a nice flat stop and back up here. And then I'm going to go ahead and let him play game over for a little bit before I ask him for more. And remember what we're trying to accomplish here with a horse playing game over. Long loose rein, quiet walk, long low headset. They're getting a good stretch. They're getting good happy endorphins going on. They're relaxing in their body. They're not tensed up, and they understand that when I pitch the reins to them long and low, it's time to take a break. In these early rides like this, I kind of start to play around with the idea of teaching them to spin. Just walking in a nice small circle, getting them to drive up with the inside hind, using lots of leg, inside and outside leg, lifting with my inside rein, getting them to come around while they want to be long and low, and getting them to try to start thinking about crossing over that front end a couple of steps. And I do this when they want to be quiet and play game over. It's just easier to teach it when they're wanting to be quiet. And sometimes if I come straight out of it at a trot, it usually quickens up their feet in the maneuver. So I start to prepare him to take the lope. I'm posting on the correct diagonal. I speed up my post and post him into the left lead. Now he wants to be a little bit speedy here, but you can see he's really kind of starting to slip around out here now, and he has to get a little bit more comfortable with the footing. It's really bad in that spot over there, and I kind of learned the best places to take him as we go around. He's not wanting to drift too bad, but I am having a hard time driving him away from the direction of home and tack room and other horses. We have another slip, so I try to just make the best of it and kind of balance him around into a trot, change direction. And it took me kind of a while to get him balanced back up again to pick up the right lead. Right here, he kind of wants to drift on this side just the tiniest little bit, and it's enough that it throws his shoulder that direction. And when the shoulder goes out, it's really hard to get the correct lead at that moment, so I kind of have to pick my battles here and set him back up to take the lope on the right lead. You'll be able to see a little bit more of the drift right here, and you can see me argue with him a little bit with my reins, trying to move him over. My cameraman zoomed out right at the wrong time. I wish it would have been closer. You could have kind of seen I was arguing with him, trying to that right rein and bring him more to the inside and set him up. I still was able to get the right lead. I was really anticipating picking up the wrong one there. And the right side has been his weaker side up to this point. He's getting kind of a good lesson here in footing and how it's not going to be consistent across the board, and kind of learning how to carry himself out. He decides to take a trot on his own, stumbles, and I just have to pick him up, put him back together, and go on with it. We're going to go ahead and stop here, and we're going to do a roll away. I'm going to rock him back into it. He took his hip to the left. I don't know if you could have seen that or not, so that kind of helped me bring him around. And anytime that hip is to the inside, that's our power source. It works better to send him out of the turn when that hip is to the inside like that. I decided to start working on a little bit of counter arcing here, so I'm putting him in a hard bend to the left, and then as I come across the middle, I'm going to start bending him hard to the right. So we had a few strides there where he took a straight line and he was bent the opposite direction, or at least what he would have felt was the opposite direction, before we changed directions, put him in a hard bend to the right here, and then we're going to change directions again after going in a straight line, counter arcing. Just trying to get more control over those shoulders. Now my hands and reins and bit aren't doing all the work here. My legs are doing a substantial amount of work. Part of that lateral comes from the legs. You have to use your legs when you ride. You have to use your core when you ride. So you shouldn't see a whole lot of movement in those hands and reins. It should come more from the leg anyway. So we do another inside roll here. That's the roll to the inside. If he were loping, we would take a new lead. We would take the right lead here. But this is how you prevent boredom in the arena. We're basically doing arena work out in an open field, no fences, and we're working on arena issues here. We're working on changing directions, figure eights, different size circles, moving off a leg pressure, bend, collection, stop, rolling both directions, working off the hind end, some straight lines, lifting the shoulder. I mean, there are so many things here to work on that people don't even think twice about. Another inside roll here. This is where we would jump out the left lead, okay, if we were loping. And if we were more proficient at this game. And this is how you prevent horses from getting game sour or pattern sour. When you change it up like this a bunch, they don't have a chance to anticipate anything that's next. If we wanted to throw a barrel out there, if we wanted to throw a cone out there or a pole and we were doing some sort of pattern work, we could break it up by doing just these handful of different maneuvers here. And then when you stop, you play game over. He's quiet, he goes long and low, he understands that this is his time to relax, get a good stretch, catch his breath, and not be anxious about the next job at hand. I was trying to get a side pass right here. He's not proficient enough yet at moving off a leg to get it. He kind of just wanted to move forward. Something I just need to go back into the arena and play with a panel, a gate panel, to help make it more efficient. As I watch him walk into this spin practice right here, I can see that he's more efficient at doing it when he moves into it rather than when he stops and has to start the maneuver. And the reason for that is probably because the psoas muscle is already engaged. It's much easier to do the movement when there's momentum already flowing, and he seems to like that a whole lot better. So I really need to kind of capitalize on that and use that to the best of my advantage. He kind of is coming around a whole lot better now on that hind end already, and we're just on ride number 10. And this horse is being rode out. This is arena work, riding out. And I can't emphasize enough, when folks bring horses to me and they want their horses rode out or they want their horse to have arena work, look, we can do both. It's possible to get both done at the same exact time. This horse doesn't have the confines of an arena rail, and he's still practicing that stuff and being very proficient at it very early on in his training, and I'm really, really pleased at his progress. All right, so I am really, really pleased with that ride. You know, it's amazing what the temperature can do for my disposition. We're about 30 degrees warmer than we were the last time around, and boy, you can really tell this guy's really sweating with the little bit of work that he's done out here today. He's pretty used to, you know, those cold temperatures, and he doesn't have a windbreak and he doesn't have a shelter, and he stands out in it, and that's what he's done his whole life. So he's got to be tough. I'm really, really pleased that we got correct leads out there. Just the 2 times I asked him to lope off for me. It's pretty slippery out there. I wasn't anticipating that much slippery underneath, so I didn't want to really push it either way. I'm really pleased that he didn't drift, because all around me is barbed wire fences, and I've had some horses really drift hard with me when I try to ride up here, and it's not fun when you know that you're going sideways into a fence like that. So if you look back, just I think it was 7 rides ago or 6 rides ago that we rode in the arena the first time, and he was drifting all over the place. And what he's learned from 6 rides ago until now, with me using my legs and using my core and holding him together and continuing to work on this stuff as well as riding out, we kind of have the best of both worlds with this horse. I'm really pleased with how he's coming along, and it just goes to show you that even with a lot of time off, you know, 9 days is kind of a lot on a colt at this stage of his training. You know, we've been really consistent with every single ride. I think you can see a progression every single ride. We've worked on the same exact things, and then we throw something else with an added piece of difficulty into it to progress them even further. And let's be completely honest, nobody's going to ride their horse every single day except for maybe a 10 or a 12-year-old kid. I mean, I know I did when I was 10 or 12. I rode my horse every single day. But even as an adult, as a horse trainer, I don't ride my good barrel horse every single day. She gets ridden every other day. I believe that when these colts go home to their either prospective owner or back to the breeder, they never get rode like they do when they're with me. So I have to know that this colt is going to hold it together when he goes, you know, hypothetically, if he were going back to his ranch that he's from, that he's going to hold it together mentally, so the next person that gets on him, he's going to hold it together, not pound somebody into the ground, not blow into a bucking fit, none of that silly stuff. I did a little bit of groundwork with him before we started today. Nothing different than what I'd been doing. Like I said, he's had a couple of times of being turned out to kind of get out of his icy corral and muddy corral, but that's been about it. So I'm really pleased. It says a lot about his disposition. I'm really, really happy with him. So thanks for watching, and if you didn't see any of the other videos, I'll link them in the description box below, and don't forget to like this video and, you know, leave a comment below or ask questions and whatnot, and I'll try to get back to everybody. Thanks a lot. Till next time.